You guys, Erin here. I am back with another moon update for you. I'm going to be talking about the new moon we've got coming up here in the sign of Cancer. This is happening on Monday, July 17th. The new moon peaks at 11:31 a.m. Pacific time, and this is at 24 degrees Cancer. Kind of a special new moon because this is also the same day that the nodes change zodiac signs. If you didn't see the last recording I put out, was it last week, about the nodes changing signs? I do highly recommend checking out that video because that's a very, very powerful transit, especially because it's happening on the day of a new moon. Of course, full moons are always a big deal. The moon's in her fullest form and so powerful, but new moons are also very, very powerful because anytime we have a new moon, it means the sun and the moon are in the exact same spot in the zodiac. We got the two brightest lights in the sky, the mother and the father, conjunct up in the sky. So of course, new moons are very, very powerful. And we've got the nodes changing signs on this day. In fact, the nodes change signs like an hour after this new moon. So anyway, what I'm going to do in this video for you is I'm going to be talking about how to work with this energy. Of course, new moons are always a time for new beginnings, a time to manifest growth that is related to the zodiac sign that the new moon is taking place in. So this is a time to manifest growth that's related to the sign of Cancer. And of course, if you're a little more advanced, you can apply this to your own natal chart. Do you have anything near 24 degrees Cancer? Or which area of your life, which house in your natal chart does 24 degrees Cancer come through? If you're using the whole sign house system, then all you got to do is look to see which house the sign of Cancer manifests for you. Personally, when it comes to these moon transits, I like working with the whole sign house system. I think it's always, worth it to go and check out. If you got the time, go check out what it looks like in a Placidus system for you. But even for myself, I generally, even when I'm writing this stuff down in my journal, I'm focusing on the whole sign house system. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that's perfectly okay. We learn this stuff in baby steps. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about how to work with this energy. I'm also going to be talking about certain parts of the body that are ruled by the sign of Cancer, because these parts of our body become more sensitive anytime the moon transits through the sign of Cancer, but it's kind of extra powerful when it's a new or a full moon in the sign of Cancer. These parts of our body become more sensitive. I'll also be talking about some herbal remedies to kind of help support not just these parts of our body, but just our body all over while we're experiencing this new moon transit. And I'm also going to be talking about gemstones that resonate well with the sign of Cancer. And of course, I'm going to pull up the chart and I'm going to go into some details about this transit, other astrological forces that we'll be receiving at the time of this new moon. But let's start by taking a look at this sign of Cancer. Okay, so the sign of Cancer, this is what we call the cardinal water sign. Okay, now cardinal, meaning it's got force. All right, but it's in the element of water. Okay, all the water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, they're all very much associated with emotions and feelings. In fact, the motto for the sign of Cancer is I feel. Okay, this zodiac sign has a very strong tendency to feel everything, feel their own emotions, but also pick up on the emotions of those around them. Can have this very natural empathy, very natural sympathy. This is a sign of nurturing. It's ruled by the moon. Okay, the moon is considered in Western astrology, the moon is the mother of the heavens. Okay, so the fact that she rules the sign of Cancer kind of has a lot to do, or as really what makes Cancer what it is. It's this motherly, nurturing energy. It's still a very strong sign, though, interestingly. I know a lot of men that have their sun in Cancer that, they understand that they are sensitive. In fact, I've had quite a few readings with people, of men who have, and women too, but it happens a lot with men, where they have their sun in Cancer. And, I'm sitting there giving them the reading, being like, you have, intense emotions, you feel things very deeply. And they're like, oh my God, like, I can't believe you know that. They'll trip out on it because that's not what we generally apply when we're talking about masculine energies. But this sign of Cancer, it's a feminine sign. Okay, all the water signs are feminine, all the earth signs are feminine. So it is this feminine energy, but because it's the cardinal water sign, it still comes with this really good force. I know actually a lot of good athletes who have their sun in Cancer, but it's also very much, again, about feelings and emotions, and has a very, very strong intuition. Okay. The sign of Cancer is represented by the crab. Okay. The crab that wears this very hard protective shell. It has to, because it's got to protect its soft, sensitive, squishy insides. And in fact, a lot of people who have their sun in Cancer or their Cancer rising, even Cancer moon, sometimes people will wear this shell around themselves because they need those boundaries to protect their soft, squishy inner being. Okay. So with this new moon in the sign of Cancer, it's time to manifest growth with these things. How are you doing with your emotions? Like kind of checking in, maybe you've been having a super emotional time, and it's time to really kind of check in on yourself with that and make sure that you're working through emotions in a healthy way. And, trying to avoid any kind of escapism and actually feeling those feelings. And not only that, but if you're somebody who's trying to work on enhancing your intuition, this is a really good time to do that. Or maybe you just want to be a little bit more nurturing to people, or maybe you want to work on that hard protective shell to protect your soft, sensitive, squishy insides. Okay, so there's that. Now also, again, for anybody who's a little more advanced, which house in your natal chart does this sign of Cancer come through? Okay, so it could be coming through your house of money. Okay, it could be coming through your house of career. It could be coming through your house of relationships. There's all these different areas of your life that this could be manifesting through. Now, what I do, and as I say all the time, I've been doing this for so long now, and I would not continue to do it if I didn't, see it actually working. I pull out my journal, I write down the growth that I want to manifest, the growth that I want to experience, or even just new beginnings that I want to experience that are applied or related to the zodiac sign that the new moon is taking place in. And I, of course, apply it to the area of my life that it's manifesting through. So if this is coming through, say, your 8th house, your house of transformation, then this is about new beginnings or growth in a sensitive way that have to do with transformational processes. That's just one example. There's so much more I could give, but I've been trying not to make these videos too long because I do have a tendency to ramble sometimes. Okay, so there's that. I pull my journal and I write this stuff down. I try to do it in the hours leading up to the new moon. Okay, so again, this happens at 11:31 a.m. Pacific time. That's Monday, July 17th. And so, that's Pacific time. Of course, you're going to want to see exactly what time this takes place for you in your time zone. But I'll try to do this, say, around 9:30 in the morning. So it's like a couple hours leading up to this new moon. And then I take my journal, I take the gemstones that resonate well with that zodiac sign, and I put a few on my journal, and I put that journal up on a windowsill, and I leave it there for a couple of days. Well, the moon, sometimes it's just one day, sometimes it's there for 2 weeks. Sometimes I leave my journal there until the next moon transit. But I leave these gemstones up there so that the gemstones that resonate well with that zodiac sign, it's like they're making a stronger connection with those heavenly bodies. Okay, the prayers that I wrote, the spells that I'm casting. When you're writing something down, you are literally casting spells. It's spelling. Okay, you're spelling it out. Okay, so there's that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the chart and I'm going to start going through things here. So first of all, for those of you who are new to my recordings, I work with geocentric Western astrology. And what we're looking at here is basically a snapshot of the tropical zodiac at the time of this new moon. All right. And the way it works is with geocentric Western astrology, we put Earth right here in the middle of this thing. And these guys right here, these are all the celestial bodies, these little symbols out here. So here's the moon and here's the sun. As you can see, they're both at 24 degrees. And this right here is the symbol for the sign of Cancer. And by the way, that symbol, technically called a glyph, is like the internal, it's like these guys are connecting together. This is a very inward type of energy. A lot of people have a lot of cancerian energy in their natal chart. Certainly not everybody, because there's things that can definitely counteract this. But a lot of people who say have their sun in Cancer, their moon in Cancer, they need their introverted time to go inward and to keep themselves safe and protective. And that has a lot to do with that glyph for the sign of Cancer. Okay, so 24 degrees Cancer, this puts us in something called the third decan or the third decan. Would actually, it gives it a little twist of Pisces energy as well. which Pisces is the mutable water sign. So it brings a little more adaptability in here. It's not so quite so forceful, but I will say this is a pretty forceful new moon. And let me explain to you why. The first aspect that I'm going to point out is this moon is opposing Pluto down here. That's what these red lines are. Okay. Now, this is kind of extra powerful. And in fact, just the hours after this new moon, what's going to happen here? Here's the moon. The moon's going to move a little further along here, and the moon's going to make an exact opposition with Pluto right after this new moon. Now, Pluto has a huge influence on our psyche, also has a huge influence on our transformational processes. Okay. Pluto is like, he's the ruler of the underworld. Okay. He takes us down and shows us the dark, scary stuff. He reveals those things to us. And in the psyche, okay, can have a lot to do with things that are even just like paranormal or going into the unseen forces and that sort of thing. Depending on your own natal chart, you might be kind of extra tapped in around the hours of this new moon. Okay. But also Pluto is in retrograde at 29 degrees Capricorn. Okay. When Pluto, I mean, really Pluto, Uranus, Neptune too, but Pluto and Uranus, when those guys are in retrograde, woo, they are powerful. Okay. As I mentioned, Pluto's the ruler of the underworld. Well, picture Hades, the ruler of the underworld, like driving his crazy car backwards in retrograde. When we drive backwards, at least most of us anyway, don't drive as gracefully when we're driving backwards than we would when we're driving forward. So that's what Pluto's up to. And at 29 degrees, this is very, very aggressive energy. So it's opposing this new moon. Now, the next thing I got to mention here, again, please, if you haven't seen the recording about the nodes changing signs, I do highly recommend it, because that is a powerful transit that is really going to have a huge impact on all of us over the next 18 months. But I'm going to talk about them now because they're making a very strong square to this Pluto energy. Okay. So this right here is the North Node, and this right here is the South Node. Don't mean to get repetitive here if you've been watching my videos for a while, but the North Node, this is what brings celestial energy into Earth. Okay, the South Node is what takes celestial energy away from Earth. Now, these guys also can have a lot to do with transformation, because we're receiving North Node energy, and the South Node energy is where it goes out. And here's Pluto trying to influence a very, very powerful transformational process at 29 degrees retrograde in Capricorn. Okay, so what's going to happen here is right after, it's like an hour and 10 minutes or something after this new moon, these nodes are going to change zodiac signs. Okay, the North Node, they go backwards through the zodiac. Okay, the North Node, they're almost always in retrograde. So the North Node is going to go bink, pop into the sign of Aries back here, and the South Node is going to go bink, move into the sign of Libra. Now that literally happens, like I said, right after this new moon. And the fact that they are making these like kind of hard aspects to Pluto is super intense and very, very powerful. Again, for those of you who are really sensitive, you very well could be feeling a lot going on around the time of this new moon, especially if you've got like strong cardinal placements in the late degrees. A lot of you are not going to know what the heck I'm talking about. But if you've got anything in between, say, 24 and 29 degrees, either Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn, then this could be an extremely powerful transit for you. These things are going to be hitting you, which it depends on what's going on in your natal chart. It could be a wonderful thing, but it could also be a really, really aggressive thing that's going on. If you want to schedule a reading, just visit erinwageastrology.com. You can schedule straight through my website. Okay, so, and a lot of energy because it's the day that these nodes change signs. The North Node's been going through the sign of Taurus. You guys have been hearing me talk about that since January of 2022. We've been receiving all this Taurus energy through the North Node. Well, again, just after this new moon, and all of a sudden we're going to be receiving all this Aries energy, which is aggressive energy. That's going to go on for the next 18 months. And the South Node is going to move into Libra meaning we're kind of draining some of this Libra energy out. So really, this is such, some of you might know this already, but I've been on a cleanse since we just had the new moon in Capricorn. Let's see, it's been like 9 days or something like that, where I went to one meal a day. And when I'm saying a meal, I'm talking about basically steamed or fresh veggies. I had a little bit of some seeds and a little bit of beans mixed in there, but mostly just trying to flush my body out as this moon has been waning. And on the day of this new moon and the day that these nodes change signs, that's going to be the end of my cleanse. And in fact, I'm going to just only liquids. And I've got some friends that are doing this with me, and it's been wonderful. It's been tough. Don't get me wrong. I'm starving, but it's so good for your body to be flushing this stuff out. And in fact, if you're watching this video, honestly, even just if it's the last day, if it's, say you started on July 16th, if you can potentially do, 24 hours of just liquids or something like that, flushing our bodies out as we're approaching this very, very powerful new moon. And I could, again, go into so much detail on that, but I already have in previous videos, and I just don't want to get repetitive for people who watch my videos regularly. If you're new to this, new to my channel or anything like that, again, please feel free to schedule a reading. And by the way, I'm also offering a 20% discount for any length of reading until August 8th. Okay, so that's a pretty darn good discount. And the reason I'm doing that is because these nodes are changing sides, and I just want to tell all you guys about it because it's such a major transit. Okay, so there's that. Now, let's see. Let's move on over to Mercury here, who is just moving into the sign. He just moved into the sign of Leo. Okay, Mercury rules our mental function and our communication skills. Mercury rules our nervous system. He's the messenger of the gods, okay? And he has messages that go in and out of our bodies, how we receive information, and he's also how we put the information back out to communicate it. And he is going through the sign of Leo. Okay, so Leo is the leader of the zodiac. Leo is the fixed fire sign, the sign of royalty, the sign with great vitality. And Mercury can struggle a little bit here. He's a little bit debilitated because it's just not his favorite place to be. Mercury likes to be a little bit more quick and move around quickly, and he can't really do that in this fixed fire sign. But it could be really good for, so much of this depends on your own natal chart, but this could be nice for kind of having the thought process working with stability, because the sign of Leo is a fixed sign, but also a little bit more of that Leo energy is fiery. It sets off the neurons. Okay. So this could, again, for some people, this could be really great communication skills. He is squaring Jupiter. So it changes things slightly, but I don't like to go into too much depth on this because anything I say here, this is all what we're receiving as a collective. And of course, we're all receiving this energy, but it is so incredibly unique to each and every one of us. Okay. And again, that depends on your own natal chart, and a lot of it will have to do with your karma as well. But also, still going through the sign of Leo, we've got Venus here. She's actually going to be in the sign of Leo all the way until October, because she's going to go into retrograde. She's been going through the sign of Leo. Oh, geez, I forgot. I think it's been about a month or so. So Venus, she's the influencer of love and romance and harmony and beauty and art and relationships. She's soft, she's soothing. Okay. In Leo, I happen to really, really like Venus and Leo. I like Venus and Leo. I like Sun and Leo. I like Mars and Leo. I like North Node and Leo, because I just like the Leo energy. I think it's fun and it's playful and it's also courageous. But Venus going through Leo, this is kind of extravagant. Okay. She's kind of extravagant in this sign of Leo. And for some people, this could be lovely. I do notice that a lot of people who are born in their natal chart with their Venus and Leo have very attractive faces. Okay, so this is kind of an extravagant energy of Venus going through Leo, but she is going to go retrograde all the way until September. She's going to retrograde basically all the way back to the beginning of Leo and then go all the way through it again until October. And so we do have just be thinking about that extravagance coming through with Venus and Leo, but she's going through retrograde. She's moving backwards. This could be a good time to like kind of reevaluate your beauty routine, or reevaluate your relationships, or reevaluate your poetry, or reevaluate your art, or that sort of thing, while Venus is beginning to go retrograde. She's not in retrograde yet on the day of this new moon, but she is just, I think it's a couple days after that, something like that. Okay, so, and that's going to go on over the next couple months. Okay, so next, let's talk about Mars in Virgo. Okay, so Mars, he's the aggressor. Okay, Mars is what penetrates. He's hot. He's dominant. He's masculine. He rules our sex drive. He rules our muscles and our adrenal glands. And going through the sign of Virgo, Virgo is the sign of purification and perfection and organization skills. And Virgo can have a lot to do with like practical but intellectual type of energy. And this is something I totally noticed with people with Mars and Virgo. They tend to be really good. A perfect example is a lady, I used to go give readings at a little herb shop in downtown Santa Cruz, California. And one of the ladies who worked in the store while I'd be there giving readings, she was the one who would keep the store organized, as in like, okay, these dresses are going to go over here. The books are going to go over there. The hair ties are going to go, whatever. And she had such a drive for that. She was so but she did it perfectly. That's the Virgoan energy. Wants things to be perfectly organized and that sort of thing. So that Mars and Virgo energy is good for that, but can also be good for time to get organized. Or Virgo is also the sign of physical health. This can also, for some people, this could be a really good transit for taking action and taking care of your physical health. It's a little tripped up while he's opposing Saturn over here. Let's talk about Saturn for a minute. So Saturn, he's the one who brings the restrictions, the discipline, the responsibilities. Okay, he's kind of like a grumpy old man that's always pointing his finger. In fact, Saturn in Greek mythology is Kronos. Okay, Kronos kind of reminds me of like the Grim Reaper, wears the black cloak and carries the scythe, and he's sometimes described as the bringer of death, but I don't say that too much because it sounds so scary. We're always experiencing Saturn's energy. It's not like he ever goes away. So it's not like everybody's just going to die because, Saturn's opposing Mars, but this is a little bit of a rough transit. Saturn and Mars, they're both aggressive energies, but in two totally different ways. Mars wants to penetrate and heat things up, and he's fast and aggressive. Okay. Saturn, and as I mentioned, Mars rules the muscles and the adrenals. Okay. Saturn is cold, restricted, very strong. Saturn rules our bones and the structure of our body, but he's slow and cold and restrictive and makes us have to take care of our responsibilities. And they're both considered the malefics. Okay. Like Saturn is really the great malefic, and Mars is also considered malefic, meaning that they can cause troubles. Okay. Saturn actually rules like chronic diseases or influences chronic disease, versus Mars will influence like acute things that just happen all of a sudden, or even like a bee sting or something like that. So these guys are having this conversation where it's almost like one's trying to dominate the other. Like Saturn's like, no, you're going to slow down and listen to me here, mister. And Mars is like, no, we're going to take action. We're going to move forward. And Saturn's going through Pisces, which Pisces is this very mystical energy that has a lot to do with the spiritual side of life, the spiritual responsibilities while we're in this physical realm, that sort of thing. That's very Piscean energy. It's a sign of oneness. It's a very feminine side. So Saturn does struggle in the sign of Pisces, because Pisces is like, I can't take care of these earthly weird responsibilities. I want to live in the dream world. Okay. I want to go into escapism. But Saturn's like, no, you can't. Okay. And these guys are kind of battling it out a little bit. It's almost like, I almost want to say, and again, please understand that so much of this depends on your own natal chart, but as a collective, it's almost like there's this, if we can find, like, there's this energy that's like, take care of your physical health. Mars is like, physical health, take care of your intestines. going through the sign of Virgo. In fact, some people's intestines might be kind of frustrated or inflamed while Mars is going through Virgo. Virgo rules the intestines. And then Saturn over here is like, no, responsibilities. And through the sign of Pisces, it's like spiritual responsibilities. And so trying to balance out how much effort or energy you're putting towards your spiritual practices and how much energy you're putting towards your actual like physical responsibilities, meaning your work, but also your physical body. Try to find a really good, healthy balance, especially at the time of this new moon. If you're manifesting that, if you're writing that's part of what you're trying to manifest, a good, healthy balance between these things, this new moon can help support that and bring that into fruition. Okay, so there's that. Let's move on over to Jupiter here. Okay, so Jupiter going through Taurus. We've talked about this quite a bit. He's in there, boy, I think it's all the way till April of 2024. So he's in there for a little bit less than a year now. But Jupiter, he's the great benefic, and he brings abundance and wisdom and luck and philosophy and long distance travel. And he's a wonderful energy, but he is also the great expander. Okay, Jupiter can definitely like make things bigger, including our bodies and so many other things as well. But he's going through the sign of Taurus, which Taurus is already the sign that has so much to do with consuming, whether it be buying things, being a consumer, but also consuming, putting things into the body, eating, okay, which of course it's a wonderful thing to be eating, but it's not a wonderful thing to be eating unhealthy foods that can in turn, again, there's nothing wrong with being a bigger person, but it's not good to be too big or obese. And this sign of Taurus, it actually rules the taste buds, the mouth, the part of the body where things go in. A lot of people who've got a heavy dose of Taurus energy in their natal chart, they love food, which again, that's a wonderful, beautiful thing. But with Jupiter going through Taurus, the sign of Taurus loves like sweets and cakes and that sort of thing. And Jupiter rules fat. So it could be like a combination, like, yes, please, I'd like ice cream with my cake, that sort of thing, while Jupiter is going through Taurus. So that's something to pay attention to, especially depending on your own natal chart. But let's say you've got when you were born, the moon was going to the sign of Taurus, and all of a sudden, and you're somebody who likes to emotionally eat. A lot of people, certainly not everybody, but a lot of people who are born with their moon in the sign of Taurus, they have a tendency to eat when they're emotional. And if here comes Jupiter and he comes up and he sits right on top of your natal moon in the sign of Taurus, that could make it a bigger deal. That could mean having 3 servings instead of 2 servings, so just be a little bit mindful of that. Okay, so we've also got Uranus still going through Taurus, which Uranus is bringing these revolutionary changes to the sign of Taurus. As I mentioned, the sign of Taurus, actually, it is the sign of like consuming things, as in buying things. Obviously, again, it's also associated with food, but Uranus is bringing these totally revolutionary changes that it could have so much to do even with our agricultural systems. Food that is grown from earth, we're going through these weird revolutionary technological changes. This is, again, something I've talked a lot about, so I don't want to go too deep into this in case you've been watching my videos for a while. I want to say the same thing over and over again. But there are a lot of very big changes going on involving that stuff. And some of it's great, but a lot of it's not. A lot of it's not. I prefer the good old natural food that was grown without weird pesticides or herbicides or weird things that are changing in our agricultural systems. But also going back to the financial connection to the sign of Taurus, there's a lot of very big changes going on with our financial systems, our monetary systems, and a lot of that is going digital. Okay, that's what Uranus's job is. He brings the technological and the revolutionary changes to the energy of the zodiac sign that is going through. For some of you who have your sun between, say, 20 and 25 degrees Taurus, you're probably going through some very big, revolutionary, unpredictable, and kind of weird changes right now, because that's what Uranus is doing through that sign of Taurus. Okay, did I cover everything? Let's see, we did. Let's touch about Chiron for a minute here. So Chiron going through Aries, we've already talked a lot about this in previous videos as well, but Chiron is the wounded healer, okay, that can have a lot to do with deep hidden wounds that are buried in the subconscious from our very young early childhood development, and they're said to have come from previous lifetimes. And Chiron really does, he's the wounded healer. He wants us to heal from those wounds. That's what the influences of Chiron wants to influence us. It's like basically we go throughout transits and progressions and situations in our life that offer us opportunities to heal from wounds that we may have experienced from early childhood development. Often Chiron will bring those, you've completely forgot about, say you were neglected or, abused or something like that. And it just completely left your conscious awareness until one day, all of a sudden you see something that triggers it, reminds you of it, or smell something that reminds you of it. That's Chiron saying, hey, we got a wound here. We're going to work on this. We got to heal this, because then you can become a healer yourself. And the sign of Aries is the sign of self. It's the sign that says, it's the cardinal fire sign. It's like, let's go, let's do this. Let's heal ourselves. Chiron going through Aries. Okay. So there's that. And again, a lot of this is going to depend on your own natal chart, but as a collective, that's a wonderful energy for working on self-healing. All right, Neptune going through Pisces, as you guys probably have heard me talk about a million times. Actually, this is really nice. They're harmonizing together here. Neptune is the influencer of things like dreams and mysticism, and it's so unearthly. Neptune is sometimes described as like the higher octave of Venus, which I'm okay with that description of Neptune. I've had Neptune on my ascendant, so I'm like, all right, I'll take that. But Neptune is very diffusive. I've heard some of my favorite teachers describe Neptune as like a hot tub, like it's diffusive, it's relaxing, okay? And going through the sign of Pisces, it rules Pisces. Pisces is kind of like that. Pisces, not to suggest everybody who's a Pisces is going to be like sitting in a hot tub, because I do know some, Pisces that can be kind of fiery and, move around quickly. But the sign of Pisces in and of itself is this very dreamy energy that can kind of move slowly and kind of go with the flow, and the sign of oneness and including everybody. Well, that's what makes Pisces like that, is very much in part due to the fact that Neptune is Pisces ruler. Okay, so with Neptune going through Pisces, we're all experiencing this kind of flowy, diffusive, spiritual mysticism type of energy, which is beautiful and lovely. I love it so much. But and also very much heightening people's intuitions. My goodness, if you got, say, your sun or your Mercury or your rising sign near 27 degrees Pisces, then your intuition might be like super crazy heightened right now, especially because Neptune's in retrograde. Like I said, these guys, when they are in retrograde, they tend in a kind of a strange way, tend to work with a little bit more force. Okay. So there's that. It could be almost like too dreamy, like hard to focus on the, physical, earthly responsibilities, showing up to work on time, that sort of thing, especially if this Neptune is really triggering something hard in your own natal chart. Okay. So I think I covered everything I wanted to here. All right, so I think I will leave that there. So body parts. So the sign of Cancer actually rules the breasts, also rules the lower part of the lung, also rules the stomach, also rules the elbows, also rules the mucous membranes, like kind of this like fluid in our bodies that's very Cancerian. And so these parts of our body become more sensitive when the moon transits through the sign of Cancer. Okay, so again, of course, everybody's going to experience this very uniquely, but some women, especially you say you've got your moon in Cancer, or you got your sun and your moon in the sign of Cancer, or something like that, you might notice your breasts or your stomach becoming much more sensitive. Okay. In fact, the sign of Cancer, a lot of people who have got a really strong, heavy dose of Cancer energy in their natal chart, they can make themselves sick from worrying, from the sign of Cancer, because it's like the motherly energy. They can make themselves sick from worrying. And it's all these weird hormones that are, being pumped out of the stomach. Okay. And can go into the breast. A lot of women who have their sun in Cancer or their moon in Cancer, something's going on in the sign of Cancer, can end up with cysts in their breasts. And again, these things, it's like our stomachs might become more sensitive. You might hurt your elbow, and we're having a new moon in the sign of Cancer. And again, so much of this depends on your own natal chart, but it is a good idea to just pay a little extra attention to these parts of our body anytime the moon's transiting through the sign of Cancer. Okay, so first of all, for the stomach, really anything. It's just not a good idea. It's never a good idea to totally stuff yourself silly with all kinds of unhealthy, that's terrible for your body. But especially when we're experiencing such a powerful lunar transit. Really, the moon in and of herself has a huge influence on our stomach, okay? So when the moon is transiting through the sign of Cancer, that becomes even more sensitive. So it's a really good idea to just be careful with what you're putting in your body. I would not be, out partying and drinking and putting a bunch of alcohol into your body, because then your body's going to have a harder time trying to detox this stuff, trying to flush this stuff out. Okay. Now, anything you could think of to help tame your stomach. But then also a couple of things I wanted to mention. A really good one is chamomile. Honestly, I've even got like boxed tea. Of course, everything I ever put in my body is organic. Maybe every once in a while, if I am at a restaurant with family or something like that, I don't have the option to eat organic, but anything I buy to put in my house is going to be organic. So just, you can get like a boxed tea, chamomile tea, especially if it's got a little bit of ginger in it. I don't wish I could think of the name of the brand right now, but I actually have a box in the kitchen right now. It's delicious. I always put a little squirt of lemon in there. It's wonderful. Very, very good for the stomach. But another one for the breast. And by the way, I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to be a doctor, and I'm not offering any kind of medical advice. What I'm telling you is things that I have learned from my teachers over the years, from my nutritional teachers, from my medical astrology teachers, and also from my own personal experience. Okay. Another one to mention here for the stomach is Angelica. I think it's called Archangelica, but it's mostly recognized as Angelica, beautiful flower. And I think you can do the roots and the flower, and even the stems are medicinal. But that's another one that could be really good for the stomach, like stress, that's worrisome stress that's going on in the stomach. Angelica could be really, really nice for that. It could be a tea, a tincture, whatever, or even just having the flowers in your house. Okay, the third one I want to mention is something called red clover. And I'm kind of excited to talk about this one, because when I was learning about this stuff, I really started getting deep into this specific study of astrology, many years ago. But when I started learning about what is specifically good for each kind of zodiac sign, it was at a conference called NORWAC up in Washington. And Judith Hill was giving a lecture on what would be good for the sign of Cancer. And I happen to have my moon and my Mars conjunct in the 8th house in the sign of Cancer. And some of you are going to understand what I'm talking about here. Some of you are going to be like, what's she talking about? I have to be very careful with the area of my body that has to do with the breast. I have to be very careful with it. And one of the things that she mentioned was red clover. Could be really good for cysts in the breast. If you're diving into this stuff, you might want to be a little bit careful, because red clover can be estrogenic, but it can also be really good for cysts in the breast. And so I was like, well, where do I get this red clover from? I want to learn about this stuff. I start looking up online and I see pictures of it. And I'm like, wait a minute here. That's growing all over my yard, like literally covering my front and my backyard everywhere. So this year I went out and I harvested a whole bunch of red clover. They're so beautiful. They're like these little flowers. Let's see if I can get one without causing too much of a ruckus here. These little beautiful flowers. I don't know if the camera is going to pick that up, but they're so cute and they smell so good. And so you can make a tea with those. But another thing, you can order them online. Obviously, they're not going to grow in everybody's yard. But what I decided to do, and I decided to do this when the moon was waning through the sign of Cancer. Okay, it's a really good time for making tinctures, especially if it's an herb with an herb that's kind of specifically connected to that zodiac sign. A waning moon in Cancer was perfect to start this tincture. I put the red clovers in here, and this is a organic grape alcohol from a really, really nice place. God, what that place called? It's called oh boy, alcohol, organic, something like that. It's in Ashland, Oregon. Really, really, really good stuff for making tinctures. So there's that. That's what I'm going to be indulging in for this new moon in the sign of Cancer. Okay, now let's talk about gemstones. Oh, I didn't get my pearls out. Darn it. That's all right. Everybody knows what pearls are. Okay, pearls are the dedicated like mineral for the sign of Cancer. Not everybody likes to wear pearls, and I totally get that. I don't really wear pearls very often, but they are a really, really good stone for helping worrying, okay? For kind of slowing down worrying. Can also be really good for the stomach. I've actually got a big strand of freshwater pearls that my neighbor got me from Hawaii because I was taking care of their house while they were gone. And they're so beautiful. And this was many, many years ago when I was having massive gut problems. I'm talking massive candida gut problems. And I would just lay there and hold them and just envision them, you know, helping my body. Pearls can also be really good for the blood. Okay, it's very interesting. If you think about the royal family, and the women of the royal family have always worn pearls. There's a reason for that, okay? The royal family is all about bloodline stuff. So there's that. Okay, now another one I was going to mention is Moonstone, which is also very, in fact, a lot of people will think that Moonstone is Cancer's birthstone, which traditionally it's not. Pearls are. But Moonstone obviously is going to resonate well with the sign of Cancer, being that Cancer is ruled by the moon. So I put my little Moonstone earrings on today, which are absolutely beautiful. I love Moonstone. This is a different kind of Moonstone. There's a few different, there's like rainbow Moonstone. There's all different kinds of Moonstone, which I love Moonstone. But a little warning here. Moonstone can heighten the emotions, okay? Let's say you're going through a breakup, okay? Or like your pet died or something that's just, those are the two things that seem like the most tragically emotional experiences that people can go through, is a breakup or the death of like a loved one, including a pet, okay? And let's say you're going through something like that. Unless you are very specifically working on your emotions, if you want to feel your emotions, then Moonstone might be a good stone for you. But if you're not feeling emotionally stable, Moonstone may not be the best stone for you, because it can heighten emotions, especially for people who are super sensitive, especially if you say you got your moon in Cancer or something like that. So, all right, there's that. Now, another one I was going to mention, gosh, there's a few I can mention. One I was going to mention is ruby. I've actually got my ruby ring on. Believe it or not, the ruby falls into, and this is out of the Encyclopedia of Crystals, they actually connect ruby with the sign of Cancer. And I understand why. It's because Cancer and Leo are so close together. But regardless, the ruby can resonate well with the sign of Cancer, but for the purpose of like brightening things up, okay, making things a little bit more like heartfelt. The rubies is really Leo's stone, and Leo's more like the vibrant sign, the leadership energy. So ruby can be good for that. Any kind of calcite can also really resonate well with the sign of Cancer, but really just some of this gemstone stuff, for the most part, really only does take common sense. You know, if you've got stones laying around and you're feeling into one, okay, I want to put this one on top of my journal. Maybe just do a little bit of research on that stone. If it's something that it could be restrictive, okay, like a blue sapphire could be restrictive and you don't want it to be restricted, then you don't want the blue sapphire on there. If it's something like black tourmaline, you want it, that's for protecting yourself. That's for protecting your words and the spells that you're casting. If you feel like you need a little protection, then yeah, the darker stones can generally be good for that. If you're going through something that's crazy hyper emotional, of course, Moonstone, as I already mentioned, might not be the best stone, but also you might not want to be working with like, I got that one here. No, geez, I put some of my stones away the other day. I don't have as many sitting right here. Oh, here's another piece of Moonstone right here. But you might not want to be working with like clear crystal quartz, because that can be very cleansing, but also very amplifying. Okay. So again, working with these gemstones, especially, again, I don't mean to just keep saying this, but it's really important for the people who are very sensitive. And since we're talking about the sign of Cancer, we're going to talk about sensitivities here. The people who are very sensitive, it's like almost, it's so subtle, but it's still there. It's still there. And you don't, if your emotions are not balanced and it's everything's turbulent, you probably don't want to amplify this stuff, right? Okay, so there's that. Did I cover everything? We went through the sign of Cancer, we went through the chart, we went through the herbs, we went through the body parts, we went through the gemstones. So I think I will leave that there. Again, if you would like to schedule an astrology reading, by the way, again, I'm offering a discount, 20% discount until August 8th. If you'd like to schedule an astrology reading, just visit erinwageastrology.com. There's a little button on the top that you click there. It'll say click here. And if you click there, it automatically takes you to the part where you're going to get the discount already lined up there. Okay, you guys, I do hope to hear from some of you. And until next time, namaste to all of you.